This is Thelma Brittain and her
niece
Cindy Brittain, and her daughter Jennifer Mitchke. And we're going to listen to some early memories of Thelma and her life growing up, and then when she moved here to Wamic. So let's start when you were back. Tell us about where your family origin is, where you came from.
Well, I was born and raised in Augusta County in Rockbridge County, Virginia. And
as a Monroe.
yeah. And I grew up back there. I came here in 1946 after Leo and I were married. But back in 1937, I was a sophomore in high school, and it was a girl from out here. Her name was June Walters, and she put her name in a Western magazine for pen pals. And my sister started writing at her, and so her sister didn't want to. Her sister didn't want to write, so she gave her letter to June's sister. Her name was Hope Walters, and my sister and Hope were pen pals.
Is this Walters Corner? His name after? Oh,
that's
okay.
June Walters, and Hope Walters was in high school with my husband at Maupin High School. And so I thought, well, it's kind of fun to have somebody to write to. So I told her to send me somebody's name to write to. And so she sent me Leo's name, and we started writing. I was a sophomore in high school, and he was a junior at Maupin High School. And we started writing in 1937. And then it wasn't until after the war, and he was in the service, that we met each other. But we'd been writing for 5 years, and it just seemed like we knew each other. I knew him, and it seemed like we didn't have any getting acquainted to do. We already were seemed to know everything about each other. And I don't know, we always assumed that we would get married. From the beginning,
wow,
we talked about someday we'd get married, and eventually we did.
And tell him where you first met him. You first met him.
Oh, well, he was in the Air Force, and he was in Colorado or Arizona, I can't remember. But he said that he wasn't supposed to go more than 50 miles away from the base. But if I would meet him in Chicago, he would take a chance on getting to Chicago and meet me. And that was back in 1942 at that time. And so one weekend, of course, my mom had to go along. I was 22 years old, but I had to have a chaperone. And so one weekend we went to Chicago to the Palmer House. Somebody had told him that Palmer House was a nice place. Well, off of the subject, but the Palmer House, my granddaughter was there this summer, or this spring, at the Palmer House and brought me a mug.
Oh.
It's the Palmer House.
And it's still a fabulous place.
There.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a fabulous place.
You should look it up online. It's gorgeous.
It's a really beautiful place. But anyway, we spent the weekend there, and then there was another time that we met in Louisville, Kentucky. And that's the only time we ever saw him till he was moving from Fort Myers, Florida to Columbia, South Carolina. And he had 10 days. So he came up to Virginia, and he was there for 10 days. We decided we'd get married. So he was supposed to go to Columbia, South Carolina So we decided we'd just go down to Columbia and get married.
Ah.
So that's how it started. And then it was 8 years that she came along.
Well, Dad was gonna stay back there, wasn't he? He was gonna get a job back there.
He did have a job. He got
surveying,
a job.
or
He got discharged from the Army in, he had him get his discharge in North Carolina, so he would be back there. And so he got a job as a surveyor, and he was working, and then it was in March of 1946, and his dad got the mumps. He was here on the farm.
Oh.
His dad got the mumps, and he had to come home and do farm work.
Ah.
So that's how I happened to be here in 1946.
Okay, let's go back now when you were pen pals or before.
Yeah.
And what was your life like back in West Virginia or
Virginia.
Virginia.
Well, I just got out of high school and decided I didn't want to go to college, so I got a job at DuPont. It was a DuPont company there in Waynesboro, and I got a job at DuPont. Started working because I didn't want to go to school. I hated school, and so I started working at DuPont, and I worked there for 6 years. During the time he was in the war or in the service.
What did you do there?
Pardon?
What did you do there at DuPont?
It was, we were making rayon, and then we started making nylon. But with a lot of plastics involved.
Mm-hmm.
And the plastics part is what they put in the atomic bomb.
Ah.
So
did you know that? Oh, you probably
we didn't know it
that.
till after the war.
Ah.
They told us after the war.
Ah.
But it was so secretive that when they shipped something away from there, nobody knew where it went. It went to a certain place, and from there it went to another place. So they kept sending it to different places. So it was no record of it.
So nobody had the whole
Nobody
picture.
knew where it
Everybody
went.
had a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept switching jobs,
Ah.
making them change jobs.
Yeah.
What about going back even further? Some of your earliest memories.
When you were little, Mom.
When you were.
Oh, when I was little? Well, the place where I was born had been a mining camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in the commissary where they had at this mining camp.
Coal mining?
No, it was a manganese mine.
Manganese.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
It's iron, I think.
And your dad worked there? Or?
No, my dad worked on the railroad, but it was close to my grandma's.
Ah.
My grandma lived there.
Okay.
My grandma's house is still standing.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's back in, my mom was born there in 1895. And that house is still standing.
Wow.
It's been remodeled, but it's still there, it's the same place.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what are your memories about childhood? Playing, what you did for fun, or how you spent your time?
But you know, I can't remember much about it except playing in the creek, playing in the water.
I did too.
Yeah. We had a creek ran right past the house, and I remember playing in the creek. And I can always remember a story they told me of that they had a party. One night they had a party, and all the guests were giving me little sips of their booze, and then I fell and skinned my nose. And we went to Grandma's, and the conductor said, "Oh, you've got a rum blossom on your nose."
A rum blossom.
And he didn't know that was really the truth.
Some of your relatives did make moonshine.
Well, I think my uncle did. I wouldn't swear to it, but I think when my mom's brother made moonshine back on those hills. Yeah.
And did your mom work, or she
No.
worked at home? Yeah.
She just took care of the kids.
Uh-huh.
Daddy worked on the railroad
Okay.
part of the time. And then later years, he worked in an orchard, apple orchard. But I remember he was working on the railroad, and they wanted to send him to Pennsylvania, transfer him to Pennsylvania. And his mother cried and didn't want him to go, and begged Mama not to go, so he wouldn't go. So then he started working in the orchard, apple orchard. And that's where he spent most of his life, working in the apple orchard.
Tell him about the CC. Grandpa Shorty worked on the CC.
Oh, yeah, he worked in, during, I think it was 1933, 34. He worked on as a CC camp. He was kind of a foreman over a bunch of guys. And they built roads and bridges and stuff.
Yeah, during the Roosevelt time.
And these bridges, there's one bridge back there we call Grandpa Shorty's Bridge, and he built.
I've been there.
Have you?
Yeah, me too.
Oh.
We got to tour the grandmother's house and the bridge. Beautiful stuff.
So did you have siblings?
Yes.
I had 4 sisters and a brother. Well, then Mom had twins that were born premature. She had a boy and a girl that was born premature. And then there was another baby died when he was 8 months old with pneumonia. I had a big family.
And so your mom probably cooked over a wood stove.
Yeah, we had a wood stove. We never had electricity until about, probably 1930-something before we had electricity. And we used to, in the summertime, after the thrashing, people thrashed their wheat, we had bed tapes, and didn't have mattresses, and you would fill those bed tapes with new straw. And then by the next time that we had straw, it would be going down so you could feel the slats and it would be pretty fine chaff, and by the time it was next week.
So you filled them once a year in the fall after the thrashing.
I can remember those old bed tapes would be so fat you could hardly get up in the bed. But by the middle of the winter, they'd be down pretty flat. Yeah. And I don't think we had a mattress until, probably 1930-something when we had mattresses. And we didn't have it, we didn't have telephone. Some people had telephones, but we didn't. And
you had a well outside
and
for water, a well for water?
a spring.
A spring. Okay.
And then we had a spring box. They have a little house built up over the spring, and there'd be a trough run from a spring. The water runs through a trough. And Mom would set her milk and butter and things in a crock, put down that water and put a rock on top of a plate over top of them. And that was a refrigerator. But it was as cold as a refrigerator almost.
Yeah.
They were really, springs come out of the mountain, and that water was just ice cold. Yeah.
And an outhouse.
Yeah. And outhouses every place. Yeah. Every time it was time to go wash dishes, we had to go to the outhouse. And we stayed a long time. I hated washing dishes.
Yeah, you'd have to heat the water on the stove.
Yeah. Well, we had a wood stove, and they have a kind of a reservoir on the side. So whenever there was a fire in the stove, it heat that water in that reservoir. So you had hot water all the time you had a fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so it sounds like you were kind of in a rural area.
Yeah, it was.
So
Very
you had a garden. Did you have
yeah, Mom
cows?
always had a garden, cans.
That's where Thurman got bit by the copperhead
Yeah.
Ooh.
on his big toe.
Yeah, we live close to the mountain with a lot of snakes. And my brother got bit by a copperhead. It was about 3 months before he got over that.
Wow.
He was,
Didn't your dog get bit by the copperhead too?
Oh, Billy.
Old Billy?
we had
Didn't
a
he
dog.
get bit by the
Then we
copperhead?
built a bulldog. And he got bit so many times
Oh,
it hardly
yeah.
made him sick anymore.
He'd try to kill all the snakes there.
Oh boy.
That dog, he hated snakes, and he'd just grab them right in the middle and shake them till he killed them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mama talked a lot about old Billy. She liked that old dog.
Yeah.
And did you have like dairy cows or beef?
No,
or
we just had one cow just for milk for
for milk.
Yeah.
Mom, tell them about the superstitions they had back
Oh,
in
yeah.
the grannies, and all of the older people had so many superstitions.
I think they were Irish. I think that's I think that's where the superstition came from, Irish. Yeah. One superstition I have never found what the reason for. At Easter, on Good Friday, my mom, the night before, would hide all the soap. So we could not make soap suds on Friday, Good Friday. And I don't know what the superstition was. But we couldn't use soap on Friday, Good Friday.
Any other kind of rituals or traditions like that in your family?
Oh, I used to sit around and tell ghost stories. I don't know what was true and what was not.
We growing up loved to hear those ghost stories.
Yes.
Oh.
They were wonderful.
That was one of our favorite things, was getting Thelma to tell us the stories and sing to us.
Yeah.
She had all these wonderful songs.
A lot of railroad songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she sang them to my kids and my grandkids and
What
the songs. Yeah.
I can remember my grandpa holding me on his knee, bouncing me on his knee and singing to me. One song I especially remember was called Willie Weaver. And it was an adult song. I don't. But Grandpa sang that song to me. I still remember all the words to it.
Don't say them.
Granny, and who was it with Granny was always playing tricks on people?
My aunt,
Which
Aunt Rona.
Aunt Loney. Aunt Loney and Granny were always playing tricks on people. Tell, who was it that they played the trick on?
It was Mom's half brother. He was really superstitious. And
What was his name?
Tom Painter. Anyway, Tom came up to get Uncle Sam to cut his hair. Well, Mom and they couldn't pass up a good chance to play a trick on him. So while he's cutting his hair in the kitchen, that's another story I'll tell you about. But anyway, they were cutting his hair, so they got a little bit of hair and tied a red thread around it, and put that little bit of hair in his coat pocket. His coat was hanging out.
He walked with a cane.
Yeah, and so they put that and left that red string hanging out of the pocket, so he'd be sure to see it. Well, when it was time to go home, they helped him get his coat on. That wasn't his coat.
He saw that thread.
He
saw that
he
red
wasn't
thread.
about to put that coat on. So they helped him get his coat on, and he left. He forgot all about his cane, walking cane. They watched him go down the road, forgot all about his cane.
He was in a hurry to get out of there.
He thought somebody put a spell on him.
Oh boy.
And there was a lot of people back there in the mountain, and I think they probably still do. I think somebody put a spell on him. Like if somebody's cow would die, they'd say somebody put a spell on because their cow to die.
Oh.
Or dry up.
Yeah.
What was it you were going to talk about in the kitchen?
Oh, it was a latch string. Did you ever hear of a latch string? Somebody say the latch string is out.
Yeah.
Well, they had this one house. It must have been built to fight the Indians because it was a log building, and it had this real heavy wooden door and a big bolt on the back side, in the side, and it had a string on that latch. You put that latch down and pull the string out, was nobody going to get in there. And that's why somebody say the latch string is out. Well, you could get in, but if you had to pull that latch string out, it was nobody going to get that door open. So if you hear anybody say the latch string is out, that's what they mean. Yeah, they're welcome to come in. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of superstitions.
Were there any? Do you have any knowledge of how your ancestors came to this country? Did your parents ever talk about how
They came on a boat.
they came on a boat? And do you know when, or was it like great-grandparents, or how far back?
Probably great-great-grandparents. Yeah.
And they came from Europe?
Yeah.
Or,
Scotland and Ireland. Yeah.
The Campbells from
Yeah,
Scotland.
they were Camel. Their last name's Camel.
There's a song, The Campbells Are Coming. You know, in Scotland, the Campbells are coming.
Yeah.
Hurrah, hurrah. That's that family.
Yeah. Camel. Yeah, Mom's parents were grandparents.
And the Brittons were from Wales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wales. And the Briton who came to the United States came when he was about 15 or 16 or something. He ran away.
Yeah.
And was on the ship. And his last memory was of his father shaking his fist at him. Because he had run, because he's on the ship leaving to come here to the U.S.
Well, it was what you...
That's
Well,
Mom
that's
and
our
Dad.
wedding picture.
Oh.
Mine and Leo's.
Let's see if we can get that on the camera there. I'll hold it up. Here's her wedding picture.
And you see Leo's wings on his uniform?
Yeah.
He trained to fly gliders also.
Oh, did he?
In the war, yeah.
Yeah, he flew gliders and B-25s.
He was a tail gunner.
Was
How
he,
about washing the windshield?
Well, he trained for 3 or 4 years before he was a tail gunner. He was a pilot.
Yeah, he was a pilot.
now, what's this about the windshields?
Oh, one of the bombers, when they got their, remember when they dipped down to get the windshield clean?
Oh, windshield, yeah. They had propellers. And this one guy, they did a lot of hot dogging. That's the reason Leo didn't get it. Somebody saw him chasing a red-tailed hawk. He was in the plane and chased a red-tailed hawk, and somebody saw him.
Got in trouble.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But they were flying one day and the windshield got all muddy. So he dipped down low enough that the props brought up the spray from the ocean
Oh my
to
gosh.
wash the windshield.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's Leo's dad's breaking ground at Pine Hollow.
Pine
Pine
Hollow.
Hollow.
Yeah.
So, when you were a pen pal with Leo and he was a teenager, what did you learn about his life back here in Wamic?
Just farming.
Farming?
Yeah.
Well, when she came out here, the road up to Wamic was dirt
Yeah,
and mud.
They didn't pave this road to 1950.
That's the breaking ground for Pine Hollow Reservoir.
Ah.
That's
That's my grandfather.
That's
Chet.
Chet.
Yeah.
Leo's
Wasn't that
dad.
shovel?
Mom's father-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that shovel the one used to throw
Yeah.
the first?
We have the shovel still. It's gold.
Oh.
They spray painted it gold.
They paved this road in 1950. Before that, it was terrible. They had put logs and ties in mud holes
Down by
so
Cindy's.
cars could get over
Oh, boy.
to get through the mud holes.
My grandfather and her grandfather were brothers,
Oh, okay.
and it had adjoining farms. They had the dairy farm, and we had the wheat and Hereford cattle.
Where was the dairy farm is down the road where the
Towards Ty,
tie,
on the way to Ty.
where you can
Just
see
when
the
you get up to the top of the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
At the top of the hill.
There's a dip in there, and they always had to fill that with railroad ties
Ah,
and logs, because that's always where people got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
ah.
And they got stuck out at our
In
place,
front of your
in
house.
front of our house. Dad was always having to pull somebody out with the tractor.
Now,
Yeah.
where's your place?
This McAllister's
Right.
Yes.
right
Okay,
here.
just
right
around
here.
the corner.
Okay. Okay.
We had this ranch. Our ranch went down past where the blueberries are now,
Mhm.
and top of the hill there.
750 acres.
And Leo's dad gave the county the right of way for all this up through here, and they said we can't just take it. We will have to pay you for it. So they gave him $1. And I still have a check. We never did cash
Oh.
the check. I've got the $1 check from the county for this right of way,
Ah.
1949, and then they started it in the spring of 1950.
When did they pave it then? 1950? They paved? Or
1950. Mhm.
Hmm.
And Jack also, well, all Chet wanted to do for the right of way was to fix the fence. Put the fences back on each side of the road.
Mhm.
So Jack also and a guy named Wesley McGill built to put the fences back
Ah.
where they on the road. So Jack also, I don't know if Jack remembers that.
Probably.
Yeah.
I can't find what I was looking. I saw it before you came.
Do you want me to look, Mom, while you keep on?
It was that Britain history
I know what you're talking
that
about.
you wrote for the
Oh, for the
ring
ring
reunion.
reunion.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
But I had it here before you came. It's got to be right here someplace.
Get my glasses. Well, I will. I can go through this stuff and see.
So when you came out, oh,
Here,
let me
right
go back to the
That's it.
time of the Depression. Was your family affected? Your father was in the CC Corps and
That was later.
later.
I mean, that before I came out here.
yeah.
Quite a while.
So, do you remember being hungry during that time period of the Depression?
Yeah, during the Depression. Oh, we almost starved to death. In fact, we were 6 kids. I don't know how in the world Daddy ever fed 6 kids during the Depression. And I remember that. I remember one time I came home from school and tried to find something to eat, and some salt and peppers, all I could find to put on my bread. We always had bread, but sometimes we didn't have much to go on it. Yeah.
Did you make your bread?
Yeah, Mom
Yeah,
made
made-
bread.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Didn't she always have a sourdough starter behind the stove
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a little
Yeah.
crock?
Mhm.
She usually had a sourdough starter on the stove. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about those times
Yeah.
of just being so
Yeah.
hungry.
There were times that I was
Mhm.
hungry. Louise, Cindy's mother, she said she could never remember being hungry, but I can. I can remember.
This was the Brittain family emigrated from Wales at the beginning of the 18th century. So early 1700s is when that branch of the family got here.
Wow.
But the Wing family came in
1500.
15 something
Yeah, they came
from England.
to Massachusetts, sandwiched.
Yeah, and there were two of the sons, Deborah Wing's sons, founded East Sandwich, Massachusetts. Started that town.
Huh.
And the Wing Fort House is still there.
And then what brought them here to Wamic?
I don't know how well they went to, the Brittons I know went from Missouri to
Came
here.
from Missouri.
Yeah. After the Civil War. But I don't know when the Wings got here. Do you, Mom?
No, I don't. It may say on some place.
It probably does.
Yeah.
Do you know why the Britons came after the Civil War?
The story is there was still so much guerrilla fighting. Well, back east, they're still fighting the Civil War. Anyway, Harmon Brittain, that was Leo's grandfather, no, great-grandfather, he was in the Civil War, and he was a Union. He was Yankee, and where they were in Missouri at the Kirbyville, there were so many Southerners, Confederates, that he was scared they were going to kill him. He thought they were going to kill him. They were, but there was a lot of killing. They didn't like the Union guys.
Yeah.
Missouri didn't like the Union. So he came over here because he was scared they were going to kill him.
In 1875.
Yeah.
Okay.
They left back there in June of 1875, and they got to Wamic, and it was October that year, and they got almost to Gate Creek, you know where the Gate Creek was, and it was late afternoon, so they camped at they're close to Gate Creek. Leo's dad showed me where they camped, and it's there about the corner of Camel Road, and I don't know what's that, Grays Hill Road or whatever comes up from a cemetery.
Woodcock.
Is that Woodcock Road? I don't know what they call that road, but it was where Camel Road comes across. It's the corner there.
Yeah.
And that's where they spent the night, first night. It snowed, so they was scared to go on across the mountain.
Yeah.
So they stayed in Wamic that winter, and they're still there.
We're still here.
Yeah.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
Huh.
They never did go into the valley. They were heading for the Willamette Valley.
Did they come on a wagon train or with horses?
Yeah, the wagon train.
Okay.
Yeah. Came over that ridge over from postage stamp down over.
And my great-grandfather, Orange, we called him Papa Orange, was 11 when he came. And so the story is that he walked most of the way from Missouri with beside the wagon to here.
Well, so did his sister. She was 16. Harmon came here, and he had 5 kids. And the oldest one, Emma, was 16, and Leo's grandfather was 10 or 11. And they walked. I remember Emma said she carried her shoes because she didn't know when she'd ever get any more shoes. And she walked barefooted most of the way from Missouri that summer because she didn't know when she'd get any more shoes.
And then Papa Orange ended up marrying a Wing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how
Orange,
that happened.
they think Orange was a strange name for a boy, but he was named for the House of Orange in England.
Oh.
That's where the name Orange came from, the House of Orange.
Huh.
Were they related to the House of Orange, or why in the world would you name your...
I don't know why they named it that. But what does it say about William and Conqueror or something?
Oh, it says that they think the Britons originated in Normandy, France, and they were retainers of William the Conqueror. And so they went with him to England in 1066. So that's how they ended up in England.
Wow. You've got quite the genealogy there. You go back to 1066.
Yeah.
But there's quite a void in between.
Yeah, we're not sure about that.
Yeah.
The Wings, we do have the direct line traced back to John Wing.
Yeah.
He was Reverend Wing in England, and he taught at the Church of England, and his sermons are still on file there.
Wow.
And so, he was coming to America. He'd married Deborah Wing, and he was coming here, and he died. But she went ahead and brought the kids, except for one daughter. They left one daughter there. I'm not sure why, but she brought the rest of the kids here.
The daughter was married
and brought her father with her, and he was a reverend. And they settled in Massachusetts.
Ah.
And they built a fort house there. And the Wing family is the only incorporated family in America.
Incorporated.
They are incorporated.
Huh.
Yeah. And the fort house is still there as a museum.
Wow.
They have their own family crest and everything. The Wing family has more than 1 million in the family, and 5 presidents.
5 presidents?
5 presidents are related in the
like
Wing
which
family.
ones?
Ford was one. Do you remember which president's mom?
Monroe's a big one, isn't he?
Well, that was the other side. That was the Monroe family. James Monroe.
Oh.
He's some sort of great uncle.
Yeah.
But.
And he was like the rest of us. He was so poor. When he died, he didn't have enough money to bury him.
He was broke when he died.
Yes.
So we know he's definitely related.
Yes. That is Jennifer's, let's see, that's Jennifer's grandfather, and that's Cindy's grandfather. The baby is Cindy's grandfather.
This is Jennifer's grandfather, and this is Cindy's grandfather.
Yeah. That was Orange.
And this is Orange?
Yeah. And that was Orange and Molly.
And Orange is the one who
Molly.
walked.
That was Wing. Molly Wing.
Molly Wing.
And Orange is the one who walked here, got here when he was 11.
He walked here on the Oregon Trail.
He got here in 1875.
Wow.
What was that tree they planted?
Oh, well, that's the Parker side. That's a different side of the family, the Parkers. They ran the toll gate up at on Mount Hood for a number of years. And the maples that are planted there where the old toll gate used to be up there, we think were planted by...
I know they were, yeah.
We have a picture of him with the little baby trees in the background. We think are those trees.
So you got here in... Did it seem like to you at that time?
Oh, it was a desolate place.
What time of year was it that you got here?
March.
Probably
the middle of March.
Snow on the ground?
I can't remember the snow, being snow, but I remember the mud. It was mud holes all over. We'd have to get the tractor and pull people through a mud hole with their car or truck. And I remember 46, Leo's mother was still alive. She died in 1949. And Leo and I lived over there for the McAllister place in that big house. It was a beautiful place until McAllister's painted it black. I can't imagine anybody painting it.
I can't imagine either.
It was a big white house. And it was new. They just built it in 1943. Yeah, that house over there was built in 1943. The old house burned. And Leo had gone in the service. He was down in California, and it burned. And it was funny, his mom said she was upstairs and just picking up a few things to carry out when the house was on fire. And she never thought about opening the window and throwing things out the window. She just take a few things and carry them downstairs. Yeah. Yeah, that house burned in 1943. Well, the winter of 1943. Or spring, I guess would have been in spring of 43. They burned. And then Leo's mother died in 1949. We lived with her and Leo's dad for 3 years. And she died. Then we lived with his dad for another 3 years. We married 6 years before we had a home of our own. We moved into that block house over there in April of 1952, just before Jennifer was born in August.
So Mom was pregnant when they moved into the new house.
Wasn't it Chet that backed into it and knocked the back end out?
That was the garage. He hit the gas instead of the brake and ran through the garage over at his house.
Oh, yeah.
Right through the saddles that were hanging.
It never was fixed. You
You can still see the outline.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you were born in 52.
52.
And you had the house then, and you were farming. The family was farming, wheat farming.
Wheat and Hereford cattle, and we every year put the cattle up in the mountains. And take the herd up and
by horseback.
By horseback.
Drive them up.
by horseback. Yep.
Which
And
route did you go?
It's right through Wamic.
Right through Wamic.
Yep, and up the back road there through Wamic and on up into the mountains.
Went past the church.
Up would be Dodson Road now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is where we took the cows.
And how long would it take you? How long a drive was it? Like a day's drive?
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah, just a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then turn the cows loose. Some of them had the bells on them. And they'd go up and check on them frequently up in the mountains. And I can still remember my grandfather, he'd roll the window down and he'd listen for bells. And then they'd also drive the truck along the dirt roads and they'd be hanging out both doors looking for tracks. Yeah, go check on the cows. And in the fall, when they would go get the cows, all they had to do was just start turning them toward home. And they knew
where to go.
They knew where to go. Yeah, they'd always have lead cows that knew.
Yeah. It was amazing. Those cows, you could know where a certain cow was going to go. They go to the same place all the time. Every year they go back to the same area. So you can know which old cow was going to be where.
The first year we didn't put them up in the mountains in the spring, they paced the outside of the fence. They followed the fence line all the way around that pasture looking for a way to get out. They were ready to go to the mountains.
They knew it was time.
Mm-hmm. It was so sad to see because they knew they wanted to go.
Well, the reason we had to quit putting them up there, they were going to make a fence around all the area. It got to be recreation. And so many people go to the mountains, the campground, and then they got to complaining about the cow manure in the campgrounds. So it ended up recreation took over. Yeah.
It was too expensive.
Badger Lake in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, and Little Badger. It was it would have been way too expensive to put fencing in up there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We
had
had
an area to fence.
To keep them up there, we had to build fences around the campground. And we couldn't afford to build a fence up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mom, tell them about what Granny dressing up like old Black Pete.
And the sock lady.
And the sock lady.
When the kids were bad.
Yeah.
And old Black Pete would go get them.
Tell her what she looked like. What Granny looked like.
Oh, I wish I brought a picture.
You mean
When she dressed up.
Yes.
Oh, the sock lady?
Yes.
We called her the sock lady. We'd get after the kids when they were bad. But she'd take a nylon. You ever see anybody
yeah.
pull a nylon over
Yes,
her?
yes, we used to
That's
do that
what
as
she'd
kids.
do.
And get after us.
I have a picture of her dressed as the sock lady, and she found a dead cat. And she has this dead cat by the tail. And she was taking the bottle away from Denny, one of our cousins, because it was time for him to give up his bottle, and that's how she was doing it. But one of my granddaughters, when she was little, I'd get that picture out and say, "There's your gene pool. That's it." And she'd just scream.
Santa Claus got Jennifer's bottle when it was time to wean her.
Yeah.
You couldn't
Santa
complain
Claus.
about
No.
Santa Claus.
She didn't care. Santa Claus could have it. It was okay.
Yeah.
When we were bad, the four of us used to play together. Me and my sister and Cindy and her sister. And we used to play together, and we'd get in trouble for doing something. Granny would line us all up and tell us that she wanted to smell our breath. She could tell who was lying. And of course, anybody who didn't let her smell the breath was the guilty one or something. But we didn't figure that out for years.
Yeah, we weren't that bright. Yeah.
And then Grandpa Shorty, Mom's dad, he always got Cindy.
He had McGillicuddies.
He had something in his hand.
He had a McGillicuddy in his hand.
I don't know what it was.
It scared her to death.
Yep. I was always afraid of the McGillicuddies.
So Thelma, tell me about your life when you first came here. Just what your days were like, what you did.
Well, I lived, just before I came out here, I lived close to town. And then, of course, there was an army hospital right close to where I lived. And there was buses going back and forth to that hospital going to town every 15 minutes. Well, I came out here, and if we went to town once a month, that was and I could not get used to not being able to go to town. We go to the Dalles maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get used to that. And then we had chickens, we had raised chickens, and we had milk cows. And we moved over here, sold the ranch and moved over here. I told Leo there was never going to be a chicken or a cow on this place. And there hasn't been. I've had all the chickens and cows I wanted.
She would raise, fryers and also laying hens and selling eggs. It was always...
I'd probably butcher about 100 roosters every summer.
Ah.
I'd raise...
We had the most fun when she butchered. Because our job was to catch the chickens, take them to her, and then she'd do away with them and then let them go. And of course they flop around.
You
and that was our second.
chop off the heads, yeah.
I was trying to be
Yeah.
polite. Yeah, and then she'd let them go and they'd flop around. That was our job, was to catch them again.
We had to go find them in the grass and
Yeah.
hang them on the
Well,
clothesline.
that's if they have to get away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had to pluck them. Did you dip them in water?
Hot water.
I did that as a kid too.
Yeah.
I
So
did
you
not like
remember
that,
that
though.
smell.
Yeah.
No, if you've ever done it, you never forget that smell.
Yeah.
Mom worked so hard, though. I know when I was little, she worked just as hard as the men
Mm-hmm.
on the ranch, and her hands would crack open and bleed in the winter, just from being in the water so much and doing all the work. I just remember, and she'd try to put stuff on her hands and then put gloves on it to wear at night to try to heal them up.
Ooh.
But of course, then the next day you have the same thing all over again. So I just remember great big cracks in her hands and bleeding.
Was that so? Were you working outside or were you the work inside?
Both.
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 She would,
Like feeding cows and
yeah,
chickens and
feeding the chickens, washing the eggs, hauling grain to the cows. We had a feed lot. You had to haul 5-gallon buckets of feed and meat pellets to the steers. When I got old enough, then I got that job.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's probably the reason Mom has lived so long and is so healthy, is because she worked so hard for all those years. Hard physical labor.
Mm-hmm.
She was a good cook too. She used to cook for all of them.
Absolutely.
And one time she was serving them meatloaf.
Oh, Bill,
Yeah.
he has to tell that story.
Oh,
Okay.
I love this story.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yes.
Leo's sister used to help me a lot. Well, they cooked, whenever we had somebody working for us, they always cooked lunch for them.
Huge lunch.
Kids hauling hay and whatever, I'd feed them. But anyway, one time there was a bunch of guys there, they were working cattle, Brandon and everything, and the guys were sitting around the dining room waiting for me to get the lunch on the table. I'd made meatloaf, and so Leo's sister was helping me. She started to the table with the meatloaf on the platter, and it rolled off in the floor, right at her feet. And I said, "Oh, it's a good thing I made two." I hadn't. But we
We're faking.
it's a good thing we made two, so I put it back on a tray and threw it back in the kitchen and worked it over. And they never did know the difference. I didn't have two. There was no way to get anything else. They had to eat it.
But she always had 1 or 2 kinds of pie,
Mm-hmm.
meat, whatever the meat was, sometimes a couple meats, and then salad. We always had a salad and then side dishes,
Mm-hmm.
Dessert.
potatoes, and always the pie.
The guys that now tell me that the ones that used to haul hay for us, that I'd make them eat so much they were sick. I think they were embarrassed and shy, didn't want to eat.
She did too. She'd feed you till it came out your ears.
Yeah.
So how big a crew were you cooking for? How many people were you cooking for during harvest?
Oh, sometimes 6 or 8, 10
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
And was it my grandmother or somebody would, if they didn't have it ready when the men came in, she'd throw an onion in the frying pan to fry it, because then it always smelled like something was cooking in there. Somebody was doing something in there.